Hi, my name is Nicolas Brissonneau. This is a work I did with Dr. Binghan He from the University of Texas at Austin, Dr. Gray Thomas from the University of Michigan, and my supervisor, Dr. Luis Sentis from the University of Texas at Austin. This is a bio-inspired impedance controller we call proportional and hysteretic damping, which is designed such that the frequency domain describing function matches the complex stiffness model observed in humans, and which showed inertia invariance properties on a single joint test robot. So why are we studying this impedance controller with hysteretic damping? We were initially inspired by a surprising property of the human body, and in particular of the elbow joint, where it achieved the same damping ratio regardless of how much rotational inertia an elbow exoskeleton system had. We had previously explained this behavior using a complex stiffness model in the frequency domain. Originally studied in structural and civil engineering communities, complex stiffness is a frequency domain behavior that doesn't have an exact time domain analog, but which is an effective model for many physical friction phenomena. An important property of this model is that the system interconnection of a complex stiffness and a real inertia has the same phase margin regardless of the inertia's magnitude. We thought this might be a beneficial property of human joints, that they would offer similar control performance regardless of how much weight the hand was holding, and so we sought to replicate this in a robot. And this led to a mathematical challenge. Since the complex stiffness model does not have a causal time domain representation, we needed to approximate it with a nonlinear causal time domain model and then analyze this approximation's performance back in the frequency domain to validate our work. To better understand why hysteretic damping is preferably defined in the frequency domain, we can start describing a second-order linear mass spring damper system with a mass m, spring stiffness k, and damping coefficient b. We can then substitute b with the coefficient h over the frequency omega to find this non-causal representation of hysteretic damping in the frequency domain. Immediate results from this substitution are the hj plus k representation of the hysteretic damping and the new independence of the damping response from its associated frequency omega. Now, as we wish to find the time domain representation of hysteretic damping, we can use the Hilbert transform on its representation in the function f. The resulting equation shows the non-causality of hysteretic damping as it depends upon future information. For our time domain model, we need a causal implementation of this complex stiffness. It should allow for energy dissipation which does not scale with frequency as achieved by hysteresis. However, typical implementations of hysteresis are highly amplitude dependent with Coulomb friction-like behaviors adding less and less phase lag as the input gets larger, while a complex stiffness has a scale invariant behavior and its phase lag should thus remain constant over different input magnitudes. These criteria led us to revisit Reed's one-page paper, which realized a causal approximation of the complex stiffness with a displacement-based scale factor to the Coulomb friction hysteresis. Now, to use this approximation for an impedance control, we represent it through the controller F as two stiffnesses resulting from their mean stiffness kPhD, to which we add or remove a factor beta depending on the sign of the velocity of the displacement x. We call this proportional and hysteretic damping control, PHD. The figure below shows two representations of the same controller response following a sinusoidal desired position input over one period. For A in the first two position plane, and B is the time response. We notice the two switching stiffnesses in blue and red, transitioning in yellow. In red is what we call the reactive phase, during which the position moves away from the equilibrium. In yellow is what we call the dissipative transition at x dot equals 0, where the difference in potential energy between the two stiffnesses will be lost. With blue comes the proactive phase, during which the position moves toward the equilibrium until x equals 0, and a conservative transition is observed as the difference in potential energy is null. We can predict the step response overshoot and the natural damp frequency for a given set of controller coefficients. To better understand how this is possible, this figure below shows the step response of the PhD controller with the switching between proactive and reactive stiffnesses. It can be observed that the full period of our controller's response can be decomposed into 2/4 of T1, the period associated with the proactive stiffness response, and 2/4 of T2, the period associated with the reactive stiffness response. Each quadrant of the response thus behaves as a simple mass spring system. It is then possible to derive the overshoot by applying the theorem of conservation of energy between 0 and T1/4 plus T2/4, because the transition between the initial displacement associated with the proactive stiffness x1 and the following displacement associated with the reactive stiffness x2 does conserve the energy, as the switching at T1/4 happens at the step response's M position. We can also notice the overshoot is only a function of beta. Regarding the damped natural frequency, we can use the fact that the full period of our controller's response conveniently corresponds to the consecutive sum of the fourth of periods of simpler individual spring responses. We can thus simply substitute the periods with their respective expressions of natural frequencies to find the resulting damped natural frequency of our PhD controller. Because we cannot expect to know perfectly well the sign of velocity and the value of displacement, we introduce additional parameters nu and delta, resulting in the following controller. Nu's role is to dissipate more energy for small oscillations, while delta acts as a dead zone for velocities. To better visualize the final controller model and its parameters' influence, the figure shows how the controller response varies with them in a force-to-displacement plane. Subfigure A shows a reference plot where we can visualize the mean stiffness kPhD and where nu and delta are negligible. Subfigure B shows an increase in nu and the associated extra dissipation of energy, which corresponds to the area within the curve. Subfigure C varies from A by increasing the delta coefficient. The transitions are smoother and the response is being linearized. Finally, subfigure D shows a decrease in beta compared to subfigure A, which reduced the amount of energy dissipated. In order to preserve the desired property of the PhD controller, we will set delta and nu as minimal as possible while remaining high enough to mitigate chattering. Using the previous results and our parametrized model, we can now verify in simulation how a variation of mass will impact our PhD controller's step response and compare its performance with the PD controller. The middle column shows the step responses with the nominal inertia of 50 kg per meter squared. At this inertia value, the PD and PhD controllers have been designed to produce the same damped natural frequency and percent overshoot. Therefore, their responses are nearly identical. As we change rho from top to bottom, we decrease the natural damped frequency at which the PhD and PD controllers are matched, slowing down the overall response. In the left side column, we could decrease the inertia to 15 kg per meter squared, which makes the PD controller response more damped and does not impact the overshoot of the PhD controller. In the right side column, we increase the inertia to 300 kg per meter squared. As anticipated, the PhD controller overshoot remains almost the same, which demonstrates its superior robustness to inertia variations to a PD controller. This plot shows two-step responses of the PhD controller with different time axes, this time running on hardware. This experiment confirms the results obtained in simulation with a nearly identical overshoot, while the inertia is increased by a factor of 5.36. Finally, we analytically derive the describing function f of our unparametrized model. We find this expression, which shape is consistent with the expected complex stiffness of hysteretic damping. We can use this reference complex stiffness model to compare it with the simulation and hardware frequency domain results by measuring the PhD controller response to a chirp signal. For this comparison, we produce two results in simulation. First, with the desired position as input and the resulting force as the output. Then, one with force disturbance as input and resulting position as output. To compare with the simulation, we conducted a system identification on hardware using the force disturbance as input and a resulting position as the output. The results are shown in the figure on the right. The reference complex stiffness model is shown in dashed red, the simulation with position as input in dotted red, the simulation with force as input in dotted blue, and the hardware experiment with force as input in continuous blue. As expected, the describing function measured with position as an input and the complex stiffness model are similar to each other. And while the force as input experiments are also similar to each other, the experiment seems to adhere closer to the position as input, which is likely due to the effect of the low-level actuator controller, which limits the torque control bandwidth. Another difference emerging from the force as input experiments lies in the lower phase asymptote for the lower frequencies. This behavior is explained by the torque as input spending a longer time in the proactive phase than in the reactive phase. To conclude, the parameterized model successfully allows for smoother switching without sacrificing too much of the frequency domain performance. Potential applications of this technique include simulating human joints in physical human-robot interactions, as well as simulating human joints in a medical training context. The robustness to inertia variations also suggests applications for heavy object manipulation with unknown large variations of the robot's joint inertia. Thank you for listening to our talk.